baby, on MMA Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Gold. This is what we doing while we do it, baby. We rollin'!
Covering MMA from all over the world, this is the premier stop for all your combat sports needs. MMA Junkie Radio, the only show broadcasting live from the Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. The lights are on and the mics are hot. It's time to get your MMA fix, junkies. Take it away, Big John.
Gorgeous George and Goes, are you ready? Junkie Nation, are you ready? Well, let's get it on.
From the fight capital of the world, inside the beautiful Mandalay Bay Racing Sportsbook, you're listening to the MMA Junkie Radio Show, the only show that matters. I'm your host, Gorgeous George. With me, as always, is the devious and dastardly Goes, our co-host. To my left, it's the fight analyst, Dan Tom. Producing the show back east, Jumbo Josh. And apparently, somebody named Gabby, who's been piping up on other shows. Let her try it on this show. We'll see what happens.
Dude, I don't know if you want any of that.
Oh, for real?
She was
Very
she was like Debo.
Oh,
like
the lovely
into the neighborhood.
Let me rephrase that then. The lovely and talented Gabby. There we go. Yeah. Better start off on good terms. Better. What's up, everybody?
What's going on?
All right. Cool. Happy hump day. I want to come in there like that camel that you see on those commercials.
Hump day.
Hump day. Yeah.
That guy?
Yeah, I like that guy.
Yeah, he's pretty cool.
They struck gold with that commercial.
I was watching 80s commercials today. Me and a gentleman from the sports book. We had a 5-round. You pick one, I pick one. And we were just going back and forth.
On YouTube?
Man, there were some funny ones. Yeah.
Nice. What was some of your favorites?
We did My Buddy. That was
My Buddy. Hey.
Buddy. What the fuck's My Buddy?
You've never heard of My Buddy?
You can take him anywhere, George.
I mean, if I hear him, maybe, but relax a little bit. What was My Buddy?
This is big. My Buddy was a doll for kids. I guess dorks. That I don't know. But you would just take him around, and he was your friend. He was your buddy. He did nothing. He was just like, picture a Chucky doll that doesn't look so weird.
Right.
And you just carry him around.
I was too old for the.
Now people take comfort dogs, right?
I missed that window, but I would have been a My Buddy kid. I probably would have been.
Buddy?
Because I was like, I was a Legos kid, and Legos was like a nice loner shield because you could just get lost in it, right? So I would never build what was on the model. By the way,
neither. Yeah. That was the problem. But I liked them, and I tried them, but that and those model, or what would they call those cars that you kind of put together? Yeah. I just didn't have the patience to read the instructions, and so I'd get lost somewhere with like number 16. You know, you got to put the engine in or whatever, and I'm already building the car without an engine.
You know what Legos were good for me? I would use them to build stairs for my G.I. Joes. But yeah, I could never stick to whatever the hell was on the box.
For me, this is going to sound like underprivileged, and I was very lucky with how I grew up. But this is going to sound like I wasn't. I was always really jealous of the kids that always get like the Batmobile or the Millennium Falcon, and I just never get my parents to get me those big toys. But I would have like this bucket full of random like Lego pieces from sets over the years, right? And I would build my own Millennium Falcon or Batmobile.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Now I'm getting kind of sad.
I know that sounds really bad. Like a little Dan Tom, like it's my version of it.
The coolest thing I got was the G.I. Joe headquarters. Do you remember that? And then
wow, that was legit.
I didn't get Castle Grayskull. And then George got me a pro wrestling. For people who don't know, George is actually my older brother, if you haven't figured that out yet. He's 9 years older.
Oh, don't tell me the WWF ring.
Yeah, the WWF ring. He got me that for Christmas one year. That was like a big one.
Is that top five gifts from him?
Top 5 presents?
From George? From your brother? George?
Yeah, it's got to be top 5.
Nostalgia and everything, right?
Yeah, I mean, he had a couple good ones. Good video games.
To this day, I'm money when it comes to gifts, especially at Christmas. I go in there just ready to get slaughtered on my end. I don't get back, although Mom and Dad really stepped up this year.
I got destroyed.
But for the most part, going head-to-head with most relatives, and I know this sounds shallow or whatever, but it's the truth, Ruth. I get smashed. Like, I'm looking at their faces, and when they open, they're like, oh, wow, you know. And as I'm opening mine, I'm like, oh, here we go.
Oh, no.
Make sure you put on a brave face. They mean well, or they're doing the best they can. And I'm sure as hell not super rich or anything, but I just like to come in with guns a-blazing when it comes to Christmas. I've had some letdowns, trust me. I think one year I just stood up in front of everyone at Thanksgiving and said, I'm going to be dumb this year. I'm forewarning you. But still, tried to.
But what about gifts?
But even my worst effort even my worst effort over the 49 years I've walked this earth, and I've probably been giving gifts for the last 40.
Mm-hmm.
Even my worst has beaten some of my relatives' best. Can you believe that shit?
Are we allowed to say what some of the dumb presents we've ever been?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, yeah,
One
totally.
person's not even. Okay, I'm just gonna say. I'm not gonna say who did this.
Okay.
I can go on forever, so you guys are gonna need to stop me at some point. You might have to stun gun me because I'm gonna be so upset. I once got a T-shirt. It said "Class of 1992" on it. A, it wasn't my size. B, I didn't even go to the fucking school.
Class
it had
of
other kids' names on it, and it was like a junior high, and I was in high school.
That was the
What am I
gift?
gonna do with that?
Come on, really? You sure it wasn't like?
Swear to God.
Was it a gag gift or?
No, it was my birthday gift. I got that.
Oh
Okay.
my God.
Once I got
Oh
a
my
clock,
gosh.
which is already dumb,
'Kay.
but it was a build-your-own clock. I had to build it, and Mom made me build it to make that person happy. And I was so mad. I had to glue all this shit. I had to follow instructions. And then the payoff is I have a clock.
I had an annoying rooster clock from Hong Kong once, and that was super annoying. But my most random gift ever. This was kind of past the Santa
No, I
page.
want to hear more about the cock clock. What happened here?
It
A
was
rooster clock.
Yeah, it was just a rooster clock. Yeah.
So it would
yeah.
crow when it was a certain time.
Yeah.
Wow. That's actually not the most
I'm like,
horrific
and I would want to
idea.
punch it even as a
That
kid. I
makes
was like,
sense. I got some cock in Hong Kong.
yeah.
I get it now.
Yeah, I did. But no. Speaking of sexual, this was a really weird gift, and this was like past the Santa gift. So my mom couldn't even like package it like from Santa, but I was still in like junior high, and I was in pro wrestling, the golden era, and Razor Ramon, Scott Hall is my favorite wrestler. And sure enough, Christmas Day comes around, and there is a not the normal like size action figures that would go into the previously mentioned WWF ring, which I idolized as a kid. No, this was a weird like kind of like 9 to 12 inch tall vibrating Scott Hall, and he didn't really move much. He just vibrated. It was really confusing for young Dan Tom.
Oh, I remember those.
You do?
I got a
Why did they vibrate though?
for a desk. A hutch for somebody else's desk. So they bought a desk and they go, we don't need this hutch. Let's package this up and give it to Goats. And they gave me that. But
Wow.
the all-time worst.
Okay.
I
all
thought
right.
there's people driving in their car going, "Goes, that ain't that
Wait,
bad."
A hutch for some from
well,
someone. What are you
but
going to do with a
still,
hutch?
I mean, I thought you were gonna say like a bag of marbles, a pair of socks.
Oh,
that
yeah,
didn't
I got a pair of hologrammed sunglasses with a chocolate American Express card. What?
Go.
But that's not even the all-time worst.
Oh, that's the worst. What's the worst?
All right, here's the worst. For Christmas, this was right around PlayStation 2 time. I had
Okay.
a PlayStation 2.
All right.
George is the oldest, so he would pass out the gifts. He goes, 2 goes from Jenny. That was my girlfriend at the time. I open it up. John Madden Football, the new game. I'm stoked. However, it's John Madden on PlayStation 3. I don't have a PlayStation 3. Bet. Guess what that means? There's
You're
a
good.
PlayStation 3 under that tree.
Oh.
So from that moment on, George is giving me gifts. To Brian from Aunt Marcella. Open it. Yeah. I was even tossing them. I was being really
Excellent.
rude to the
Christmas
point where my
story.
mom was
You,
like,
you were like a hockey goalie. Just
yeah, because I just wanted to
brushing
get to
them
the
aside?
PlayStation 3. So my mom finally said, dude, you got to start opening gifts. All right, I open it up, a sweater. Cool, thank you. But I was looking at all the gifts that were left under the tree, which ones could be which. Finally, we get to like the last
You're
couple.
looking for something the size of a toaster, maybe?
Yeah, I didn't get it. Oh, one of them, the one that, and this is probably the worst reaction I gave, to Brian from Mom and Dad. I open it up. It was a pair of Jordans. It was a box. I was like, okay, maybe it's this. I open it up, Jordans. I go, I threw it to the side. Who does that? Jordans. But there's a PlayStation 3 there. So I wait. I get nothing. I go, oh, man, I get this game. When I go to bed, it's going to be right there on the bed. So I tell everybody, good night, everybody. I go. Nothing on the bed. I go, maybe behind my pillow. I look. Nothing behind the pillow. I go, all right, this is weird. But when I get up in the morning, I bet you I walk out, and boom, it's under the tree.
Guys,
That's
you
how-
started dating Jenny at 16. You're describing a little kid at 6 years old.
PlayStation 3, though. The greatest gift you could possibly, that's the $300
So you're
gift.
an adult acting like this.
I'm acting like this as an
Okay,
adult.
all right.
All right, so then in the morning, I get up, and she asked me, like, how was your Christmas? I go, it was good, but, maybe a little bit of a letdown. Oh, what's wrong? Hope it gets better. So I'm thinking, all right, when I get up, I get up like a little nerd in the morning. I go to the tree. Nothing's there. Finally, I walk in. I shake this girl. I go, wake up. What the fuck is going on? Where is my PlayStation 3? She goes, what? I go, my PlayStation 3. She goes, I didn't get you a PlayStation 3. You got me John Madden Football for PlayStation 3. She goes, oh, I didn't know. I just thought it was all the same. She didn't even get me the PlayStation 3. So she robbed me of the experience of opening all the other gifts and ruined my Christmas.
Wow.
The end.
Man,
I know I sound entitled.
You sound like
that's what happened.
You sound like the Christmas Story kid. You know, he's waiting for the Red Ryder.
I thought that's what was going to happen.
BB gun, and man, that's so sad. I have like one of my best things is from PlayStation 3. It wasn't really a gift because I got it for myself, but I always credit actually Dana White for my PlayStation 3 because I escorted a drunk Dana White to his hotel room for when I was working hotel security when he had that 40th birthday party, the one where the Stone Temple Pilots played, that Rogan talks about, and he gave me quite a nice tip, and
How much?
$300. So it was, which was
PlayStation?
Yeah, and his birthday is a couple days before mine, a fellow Leo. So it was already on my mind. I was already in the hunting spirit, you know, and your birthday gets near. So I credit. Thank you, Dana White.
I like it. All right. So on today's show, we are going to be talking to Cory Sandhagen, who got a win this past Saturday versus Mario Batista at UFC Fight Night. Cejudo versus Dillashaw. First round stoppage. And then we'll also talk to Jessica I. So remember, in between then, when we're not talking about Christmas stories, we will be taking your calls at 877-FIGHT-93. That's 877-FIGHT-93. Talking about the latest news in the sport of mixed martial arts, including all the latest fight bookings and results and forecasted fight cards. So participate, won't you? All right. I know that Cory's going to be on soon, so I'm just waiting for the green light. Do we have him yet, guys?
Josh?
Ready to go?
Oh, he's ready to go. Cool.
Nice.
So let's talk to Cory Sandhagen. You got to follow him on Twitter at Coors Life. Although, Coors_Life, he admits, I'm not on Twitter much. And I go, let me see what this cat's talking about. And, of course, his last tweet was March of 2018. So, yeah, he's not on Twitter much. And then the one before that, the one that's pinned, is December of 2016. So, not much going on. But, hey, maybe we can convince him to get back active on it. He's really, really a great fighter, an exciting fighter. 10-1 overall, 3-0 in the UFC. He joins us now on the hotline. What's up, Cory Sandhagen? How you doing?
Yeah, what's up, fellas? How are you guys?
Good, man. Hey, we're not late to the party. Everyone else just got to the party, but we've seen you fight since the LFA days. We've seen you do your thing on Fight Pass, and you just keep getting better and better, and to me it looks like the game is slowing down for you, and that's why you're able to be so precise, efficient. It's really, really exciting to see your growth as a mixed martial artist.
Yeah, thanks, man. It's actually really cool to, be going through because, I mean, there was a time in fighting where I wasn't very present. I wasn't fighting up to my potential, and now I've kind of nicked all of that in the butt, and all of my performances I feel like are just becoming more and more clear, and I'm just I'm just on a different level of competitor now. It's super fun to watch have happen to me.
Yeah, exactly. And so with that comes, now you being 3-0 and so much attention from the media. Big card on ESPN as the ESPN era started with the UFC. Now, of course, we're going to get into some other matchups, matchups that get you closer to a title. When did you know? I don't think it was after this fight. I'm sure at some point you knew, wait a minute, I don't just belong in the UFC. I'm one of the top guys in the UFC, and it's just a matter of time before I get there. I know you got to play your cards right and get a few more wins, but when did you know that you had the skills to fight with some of the better guys?
It was probably it wasn't a recent thing. It was probably. I kind of started with high altitude martial arts at Nate Marquardt's gym when he used to own it, and then so just starting there, I was training with really, really good guys right off of the bat. When Grudge and Easons were a team 10 years ago or so, and then it kind of evolved into the Elevation Fight Team in the last 5 or 6 years or however long that's been. But we've been having really, really good, solid talent, UFC guys, high caliber UFC guys coming in the gym for the entire time that I've pretty much been training, and I know that I'm on a different level of competitor because of where or who I've been able to train with in the years that I've been training. So like, I knew that I have the talent and I have everything, but there's so much more that goes into fighting. That's what makes it like so exciting, and such like a special sport, is because it's not just who's better in there. There's so many other things that go into it. But now that I've kind of like mastered my mind a little bit, I'm able to compete at the talent level and the skill level that I actually am, and I'm realizing how important that is. So I've kind of known for a really long time, and I knew it was going to happen very quickly. I've only been in the UFC for not even a year yet. I think it's a year and a few days, but I mean, I'm working my way up there, and I'm off to a really solid start, which I'm pumped about.
Well, you knew it a while ago. I knew it in the first minute of the Austin Arnett fight, and you keep proving me right. And I'm also making money. I live in Las Vegas. It's legal to gamble, and I'm very public about it. So I think I owe you probably a beer or two. You know what I mean? If you ever find yourself in Vegas.
Yeah, nice.
So,
well, man, we gotta get me an opponent where I'm not always the favorite.
Cory, don't take that from George. Just a beer. I know what kind of money he's slinging around. He's made more than that.
Maybe a steak, too. I don't know. Cory Sandhagen is our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio. 10-1 overall. He fights in the UFC bantamweight division. He's coming off a win, a very impressive win over Mario Batista. And now I know that you're saying you're ready for those top 15, top 10 guys. But I want to ask you before then. You said something very interesting to me about you go into battle with, you know that it's not just the physical skill set, but a lot of it's mental. Why are you so at peace? I guess because that's how it appears to me. Like maybe you have a stress-free life, or at least on fight week you're stress-free. How have you been able to put yourself in that position?
A lot of it I can attribute to working with my sports coach, Joey. But to be honest, man, like, I kind of live in that way too, you know? Like, I know it's, everyone lives kind of in their own little world of, like, what they think is right and what they think is wrong. But, like, for me, man, like, I live in the world of, like, I'm doing things because I love them, and I'm working as hard as I can at those things because it is what I love. And I just have like a longing, like a drive to do it. Yeah, man, I'm just calm. You know, like, to be honest, like, I think people stress out so much about what's going to happen afterwards and what people are going to say if they lose and blah, blah, blah. But obviously those thoughts cross my mind, but I'm very good at just shutting them down and bringing it all the way back to just my performances. Like, the win and the loss, like, we like to think that we have a ton of control over those things, but winning and losing, you don't have a ton of control over. All you can do is work your hardest in the gym, and that's what I do. Like, I don't cut any corners every single day. I show up to practice and I get better, and I don't think about winning and losing. You know, like, for me, it's just about me going out and performing my best that night. And even before this last fight, I didn't even really feel that great, honestly, going into it. I felt sluggish. My body wasn't able to wake up, but I knew that, like, I still have it in me to go out and perform the way that I know that I can. So it all just comes back to performance for me.
You're a beast, man. You're 5'11" for 135. Is that an easy cut for you?
Yeah, it's pretty easy, actually. I don't have, like, a huge build either, you know. Like, my muscles aren't very, like, thick, I guess you could say. Like, I see a lot of the littler guys that they have very thick chests and, like, very thick legs. I'm stretched out a little bit, so honestly, man, I think that I probably cut a lot less weight than most of these guys, but it isn't fun. But it's not terrible, you know. Like, I feel like I look a lot better at weigh-ins than a lot of the other guys do.
When I was trying to book you for the show, you told me, you know, I'm going to hang out with friends or whatever. What's it like for you hanging out with your friends? What do your friends and family think of your career and now the success that you're having, the popularity that you're gaining? Is it a pretty cool ride? Like, do you hear about fight parties back home when you're fighting, or bars filling up or anything like that? Are you becoming maybe a little bit of a local hero in Aurora, Colorado?
I think in the fight community I am. But yeah, it's kind of the same, man. Like my circle's pretty small, dude. Like most of the people that I'm hanging out with are people that I grew up with. And then as far as like me, I don't know, becoming like a little bit of a local hero in Aurora. Aurora's a really big city. I know that like I'm creating buzz and like in the city a little bit, but I don't know. I don't think that I am too much. I kind of got to get on that a little bit though, you know, because there's probably some a little bit of cash or sponsorships or something in the popularity, obviously, but no, that's an area I definitely can improve on a little bit. But like I said, man, like I just focus on my performances and showing up to the gym every day and getting better. But I could improve in the popularity section a little bit more. But I'm just gonna keep putting on good performances and let those speak for themselves.
Yeah, definitely doing that. All right, Goes, what do you have for Cory Sandhagen?
Cory, armbar, ground and pound, body shots, knees, head kicks. I like the way how you finish fights, but is there maybe like a bucket list type finish that you've always wanted to get that has eluded you to this point?
I want a Stone Cold Stunner someone, bro. I've always wanted a Stone Cold Stunner someone. I imagine it in my head too. I know how I'm gonna do it. I just gotta let it happen. Like I imagine body shotting someone, and instead of like kicking them low, like I think Stone Cold Steve Austin used to do, where then they bend over. I imagine body shotting them. They bend over that way, and then me just stunnering them, and then the ref calling it. I make that joke a lot with my teammates, but I want that. I want a Stone Cold Steve Austin stunner.
He'll own
and then
ESPN if he can pull that off.
Crack it on my head.
You'll own ESPN for a day, maybe a week, if you pull that off, dude.
I wouldn't even know what to do with myself. I think I would just turn it off and walk away. Like there's nothing more that could be better than that.
You ever see the NBA All-Star game when they have the dunk contest?
Yeah.
And someone does something incredible, and all the other athletes are falling off their chairs and all that? That would probably be me if I saw someone Stone Cold Stone Cold stun somebody, but actually use that as part of their sequence. That would be me. I'd fall out of my chair going, oh, my God, I did not just see that.
Cory, so you would take the risk, even losing position and all that? But you would try it at least?
I don't know, man. Like, it depends. Like, it's hard because sometimes when I'm in the fight, I'm like playful, you know, occasionally. But then I also take it really serious too. Like, I don't like just go out and bang, but like when I'm out there, I'm really trying to like be as aggressive as I can and like hurt the person as much as I can so I can finish the fight as fast as I can. So if I'm like really tooling the dude up and he's not going down and I know he's done, I'm shooting for that Stone Cold Stunner, and I want you guys to toss me a beer.
Oh, man, if he does that, I think we all have to do that, right? But do you have I know you're very focused on your opponent and you're a very serious fighter, but it's human nature. We all think of random things sometimes. We had Mike Pyle on here one time, and he said he was thinking of SpongeBob during a fight. He didn't know why. It just popped into his head. The Stone Cold Stunner, has there ever been any other types of thoughts like that during a fight that you just found funny or awkward that it popped into your head?
No, not like SpongeBob. It crossed my mind when I had the triangle against Mario that I was like, I'm not too familiar with finishing from that position. I can lock up the triangle from there, but like finishing it's a really tough place to finish. But I saw the vein in his head start to stick out, and I saw his face starting to turn red. So in my head, I was like, oh man, if I get this, I'm for sure getting that 50K again, because it was such like an awkward position. But no, dude, no, like really weird thoughts. Most of my thoughts, I try to be as clear a thought as I can and just react, but that's about as lucid as they get for me.
All right, let me turn it over to the fight analyst, Dan. Dan, what do you have for Cory Sandhagen?
Hey, Cory. Obviously, big congrats on the win and whatnot, but speaking of jiu-jitsu, I guess I got a loaded question for you first. Since we're on the topic of jiu-jitsu, looking at one of your old Instagram posts, Cory, and I guess we shouldn't be that surprised. Obviously, like George, been watching you for a while and been impressed from you the whole time. But as far as your jiu-jitsu goes, you know, you got your brown belt, it looks like, back in December of 2017. And I'm just going to go ahead and read the caption you put there, Cory, and kind of let you answer. But it says, brown belt last night. Thanks, Donnybrook Cody Donovan, who fought in the UFC, people aren't familiar, for inspiring me when I was a gangly teenager. Fire Marshal, Doug Marshall, obviously a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, also fought in the UFC, for being a new leader in my life and Christian Allen for being my sensei and most influential person. So a loaded question, but what inspiration did Cody Donovan give you as a gangly teenager? Why is Elliot Marshall, a new leader became a new leader in your life? And why is Christian Allen the most influential person in your life? So loaded question, Cory, but can you answer that?
Yeah, I can try to answer it kind of quickly, I suppose. Cody's the guy that was running all of the classes when I was at high altitude. He taught like a lot of the fundamental classes. So when I was in high school and I was training as much as I could, a lot of it was with him and with Christian. But he was just he's just like a really good motivator, you know. Like he was one of the guys at Grudge that I was and Easton's that I was close with. Who I was kind of able to relate to a little bit, like, oh, like, this guy is making it into the UFC, and he's actually kind of my friend, like, that's really inspiring, like, that kind of, like, brought, like, oh, man, like, this could maybe be real for me, you know? Mm-hmm. Me and Elliot have gotten really close, I would say, in the last, like, 3 or 4 years. I've been taking a lot more of his jiu-jitsu classes, so, like, just him in general, me and him, because Elliot, I don't know how much you know about Elliot. He's a really loud dude.
Yeah, I can hear him in the corner.
And he can be a little bit intimidating. Yeah. He can be a little bit of an intimidating guy, like when you're starting to get to know him. So, like, in the last couple of years, we've kind of warmed up to each other a lot. Like, we're really on the same page with each other. I really love using him as a coach, too. And then Christian Allen, everyone kind of makes the joke that, like, I'm the clone of Christian. But Christian's just been my head coach since I first started. Like, that dude's just taken me under his wing. Like, he never charged me once for a mitt session. Even when we weren't even close, we weren't really friends in the beginning. Like, he kind of just saw something in me that he believed in, and even past, like, the cage and me just fighting, like, Christian's always been there for me in my life. He's guided me not only through, like, how to be a really good martial artist, but also, like, how to handle myself outside of the cage and how to be a good dude and stuff. So, yeah, those are the reasons that I posted that. I'm very close with all of my coaches.
Well, I've heard nothing but good things about those coaches, but it was nice to kind of hear a detailed response like that. So thank you for that. And I guess last one from me. I don't want to interject myself into any interview, but it's kind of relevant to something you've talked about in our last interview together, and you've talked about since, Cory, and that's kind of teaching and kind of a service to others and kind of service to kids all around. I myself miss being back into martial arts and planning getting back from health issues. But one of the other things I discovered I missed, Cory, was teaching. I've been lucky enough to be in positions where I've been able to teach, and whether especially kids and whatnot. And there's a certain fulfillment. I don't want to speak too much because I want to hear your answer. What is it that you get from it? And assuming you continue with your martial arts goals, and hypothetically you have a gold strap around your waist, do you still make time for the service that you're already doing?
Yeah, of course. I say this to myself all the time, and kind of because I kind of live a little bit of a busy life, you know. And people kind of ask me why I still do my part-time job, why I'm still teaching so much at the gym, and my answer is always because I've never done anything in my life that I haven't loved, you know. And obviously everything comes with sacrifice, so you kind of have to, like, bite the bullet on some things. But with teaching, with fighting, with my part-time job that I do on the side, like, everything is because I just love it, you know. And from a teaching perspective, being a kickboxing coach at high altitude, like, I have a few guys that I'm very close with that I would consider I'm kind of their Christian to them. Like, I'm guiding them a little bit, and, like, when they need help outside of the gym, I'll always be there for them, which is way more fulfilling than being able to teach them to throw a proper technique. But for me, like, I get the most fulfillment when I know that they're trusting me, and their styles have been heavily influenced by, like, what I've taught them. So, like, I have a couple guys, Daniel and Miguel, who train at high altitude, who I see fight almost exactly like me when they go out and fight. And, like, just that is very complimenting, and it makes me really, really excited to kind of, like, impact their game a little bit, because I know that carries on into life, and that's important for me. So.
Good stuff from Cory Sandhagen. We really appreciate your time, my man. You've looked great. I'm going to go get one of those Reebok kits, so don't make me look bad. I don't want to hear about no parking tickets or slapping bouncers around. Just keep doing what you're doing, man. You're going to be a world champion, I can tell.
Yeah, heck yeah, man. I appreciate that a lot. Thank you.
All right. I know you're busy. Go out and have fun with your buddies, and we'll talk to you soon, all right? That is Cory Sandhagen. Follow him on Twitter at @Coors_Life. We're going to take a break here. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation, Channel 93. And with March already booking up, unless she's going to be on an ESPN card, I'm thinking that April pay-per-view, that might be the spot where she lands.
Be nice.
All right. So, speaking of that, I was one of the guys that said we don't need the flyweight division.
Okay.
I felt like there wasn't enough quality flyweights. We had a good bantamweight division going, but at the time this was when Rousey and Misha and Davis hadn't dropped. Liz Carmouche dropped to 25. Juliana Pena hadn't gotten yet. Could pull it off. She had already gotten to 4 off. Are there Dallas, Texas, where she, didn't make weight and there was no title fight, and next thing you know, we had to get to this vacant title that Valentina Shevchenko defeated over Joanna Jędrzejczyk. And even at that point, if you think about it, it's like Joanna Jędrzejczyk, she just lost twice at strawweight. Why are we putting her up? But it's a fight that they wanted to make, and they made it happen. But now that we have Jessica Ai winning 3 in a row, and Joanne Calderwood, I believe, won 3 in a row, 2 at flyweight, and a few of the other young ladies that are, kind of holding their own, doing well, believe it or not, I'm starting to get more excited about this division than others, and I'll tell you why. Because now Rousey's in WWE. Misha Tate's retired. Juliana Pena's a mom, although she is teasing a comeback. Holly Holm, I think, is coming back. Yeah, she's fighting Aspen Ladd. And with those other ladies that I mentioned, they came down in weight. A few of them went up. I don't know. I'm liking it. I like the champion that we have there. At strawweight, it's not that I dislike Rose. It's just like we're nearing a year in which she hasn't fought. Mm-hmm. And her last 2 opponents were Joanna Jędrzejczyk. And everyone else has just kind of been beating each other up. And prior to Rose Namajunas, Joanna Jędrzejczyk was beating everybody up. So it was a division that, I felt like it could have been more fun. The title got passed around, and that wasn't happening. And then at 35, Amanda Nunes has been the queen for the last 2 years or so since she beat Misha Tate. 45, some of its luster has been lost with Cyborg, who kind of reigned at the top of the mountain as the baddest woman on the planet.
That was its luster.
Right, and that was it. Like Megan Anderson, no disrespect to her, and Jermaine Deronami and Holly Holm, all the other ones that were trying to get there. It's like they weren't able to do anything about Cyborg. But Nunes did, and immediately she said, all right, now that that's done, I'm going back to 35. So that division's just left with nothing. But anyway, I got to apologize to the flyweights, the women's flyweights. I thought, why are you here? We don't need you. And now it's going to turn out to be one of the divisions that I'm probably going to enjoy the most in the next couple of years. Now, strawweight has a chance to refresh itself a little bit. Maybe if Jessica Andrade wins, maybe that shakes things up. And then Nunes is fun to watch. She's more Mike Tyson-esque. How fast can she destroy her? Her opponent, fill in the blank. But what are your guys' thoughts on the flyweight division? Did you feel like you gave it proper chance, or were you also in the same boat as me?
It depends how you look at it. At the time, you just have to assume that most of them will stay in their division. So you think, all right, well, what is it that we have? I had no idea that this many people would move to that division, making it pretty fun. So yeah, I mean, I guess we do got to eat a little bit of crow, but at the same time, I don't think we all knew the amount of people that would be doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. I like that Mike Tyson-esque. You just gave me some more ideas there.
Nunes?
I'm covering tomorrow night on the Protect Nick podcast. Going to cover top 5 Mike Tyson archetypes in MMA. And yeah, there's some fighters there that you covered that are a couple of them there.
Nunes and Cyborg for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, and especially with the way Nunes is just icing people now, right? I mean, just
obliterating. She obliterated Misha Tate. She obliterated Ronda Rousey, and now Cyborg. That's almost a Mount Rushmore there.
And to your point, George, about the potential 125, she's even talked about adding on to the. I don't know how I like about 145.
She did say that. We haven't
teasing
talked
125.
about it. Yeah. So she did say that's something she, wants to pursue. But, I mean, Valentina's there. I'm sure that was music to Valentina's ears because she would just love to fight Amanda. But I think it would be at 35, except she doesn't control the situation at this point. The same way Cejudo controls the Cejudo Dillashaw situation, Nunes controls the Shevchenko-Nunes situation. She'll call the shots. But if Nunes wants to go down, I'm sure Valentina wouldn't mind fighting there and then seeing how that goes. But, my mind will explode. I just wanted to give the women's MMA flyweight division at least a little personal apology because I really thought that it was a big waste of time. I will say I thought the 45 season, I didn't think much of it, and I still don't. So who knows? Maybe in 2-3 years I'll be apologizing to those ladies, but I just don't think we need that right now, and I'd rather focus more on 165, 175 for men. Definitely don't get rid of 125. MMA has a chance to really, really like fill out, you know what I mean? Certain weight classes for a good 5 years before we revisit. Hey, should we go to 95? Hey, should we split the heavyweights in the middle? Hey, should we have 155 for women? Yeah. Hey, should we bring the atom weights? I don't know. There'll be another wave when this happens because the sport's too big and too popular for it not to happen. But for now, I think we're kind of set with those 4 women's divisions. I really don't know what the future is of women's 45. But I'll tell you what, if you're going to get rid of men's 45 or 25, then women's 45 may go, with it. You really don't need Cyborg to be their champion. All you need is for Cyborg to fight. But Cyborg also sounded like she didn't have that many contests left in her, Mm-hmm. I don't know.
We always talk about our sport and how it's in the leather helmet stage. And if it's in the leather helmet stage, then women's MMA has to be even behind that. Mm-hmm. They're still trying to figure their stuff out.
They're not even wearing helmets?
They're not even wearing helmets yet. So I think we kind of have to give them a little bit of a pass. I think a lot of that will start to develop the same way the men's division started to develop. And for the longest time,
BJ Penn and
middleweights
all those lightweights, they said, we don't need you guys right now.
Yep.
They're going to go through that same hiccup. And to this day, we're still seeing what's going on with people always talk about bringing 165. How many guys have said, 195 would be kind of cool,
I used to say that.
Right? So I think we're still trying to figure it out on the men's side.
I used to say that, but now we don't have a big amount of 205ers.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know if the same way Dana feels like Dana White says, I don't want 165 because then we're going to thin out 170, 155. I disagree. We're not. Well, there's plenty of talent, trust me. If we did it with the women's 25-pound division, trust me, it'll work with men's 65. I see those names every week. I know exactly, what I'm talking about. But if you take just a couple 205ers, you're really going to put a damper on 205. I mean, DC's on his way out. You can't even call him a light heavyweight. He's going to have one more fight probably at heavyweight, and that'll be it. Anthony Johnson, retired. A few other guys dropped to middleweight. It's just, it's not there. A few guys signed over at Bellator. And middleweight is nice and thriving. Why take away from there as well, by creating 95? Now, I do realize that as I say that, every time I say something like that, I'm also advocating, cut that weight, boys. You know what I mean? It's a fine line, man. Look, that's just how I feel about I don't think there's enough depth. Either way, there's going to be a positive and a negative. I get that. But right now, I just don't think there'll be much of a weight class at 95. At one point, though, we will need it. We'll need that 95. Probably cut heavyweights in half. I don't know about super heavyweight, atom weight for women, and lightweight for women. We'll see. But that's the 5-10-year plan.
Cruiserweight gets brought up every now and again, and I understand why people bring it up. But really, when you think about it, look at the guys that have been dominant, right? Like Cain Velasquez, Stipe Miocic, Daniel Cormier. Those are the smaller side of the heavyweight guys. Very rarely are the guys that are cutting to make the weight are the dominant guys. So I don't know that that's something you need, but how do you hate? I mean, that is a lot of weight. I don't know.
That's what I was going to bring up. You see that with the heavyweights. That's why I'm against the 225 because our most successful heavyweights were smaller guys. And even in boxing, going from Rocky Marciano to Mike Tyson, these were all smaller heavyweights. Were some of the most dominant. Athletic. Evander came up from cruiser, even was a light heavyweight maybe at a certain point in his amateur career,
he won
right?
A light 178 for the U.S. if I'm not mistaken. Sorry, not a title, a gold medal, I believe.
Yeah, man. I mean, and then you go further. Let's go look at older MMA examples of Frankie Edgar earning his best accolades a division up, and he could probably make bantamweight, or new age Frankie Edgar, Gregor Gillespie, who's like, hey, this guy, looks like he could make 145, but he's just slaughtering big lightweights, right? They're giving him sizable lightweight. Medeiros, Jason Gonzalez, Glyco Franco looks like a middleweight.
Shout out to Medeiros, by the way. Any other lightweight would have really got mopped up, and Medeiros at least. He had a high school wrestling background.
Yeah, that's
right.
And
I think he was able to, mitigate some of that damage and what could have been worse. But it just goes to show you, man, Gillespie is really driven, to push that wrestling game, the ground and pound game. But I know a lot of people are quick to shit on, the guys and gals that lose, but I thought Medeiros did pretty good. It's just a bad matchup for him.
And by the way, and also just adding to your guys' point, shout out to Mindra Mike. He texted me after the main event last weekend, was like, "Is this more proof do we need that the lighter, the cutting weight and lighter guys can do well?" And I think that's the one good thing about these super fights. We can be negative and be like, demeaning the belts and everybody's a champ now. But I think the really good sample size, hopefully the fighters are taking from it, is, hey, we don't have to be the bigger guy to necessarily have the advantage here.
Yeah. All right, I think we have to take another break. Let's do that. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on SiriusXM Fight Nation Channel 83. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about some news from our friends over at the PFL. One of their execs resigned. We'll tell you all about it when we come back.
Blah, blah, blah.
Maybe, yeah. I don't feel like it's a middle finger to MMA or to the PFL or anything like that. Everything seemed pretty cordial to me. He said, most people don't know this, but tennis is kind of the most important thing to me. So he briefly played professional tennis after playing college tennis at Boston College. He goes on to say it was a super tough decision, but I decided to jump in. Now, what does this mean? I don't know. The PFL was very pleased with their first season, and they raised the capital for
for one of his like very first. And I thought he did. At events, he was always into everything, wanting to work with someone you're very passionate about. You can love, you can like a lot of things.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, apparently, you know, their last couple shows on Fox, they were kind of like in the 500,000 mark, but this last week with ESPN, they actually did really, really well, like over 1 million and 500,000 subscribers to ESPN Plus. So the new era on ESPN is doing great for the UFC. PFL is arguably the third biggest organization in the world, depending on how you feel about them and one championship. But apparently there was some success there, and they're going to go forward with the season 2, and we'll see how it goes. The fighters say great things about them, and from what I've seen, they run a pretty good ship. So we wish them the best of luck. All right, so in the second hour, we're going to be talking to Jessica Eye. Like I've stated a couple times today, it all looks like all systems go for her versus Valentina Shevchenko. When, we don't know. But I'm going to have the list of events that the UFC's having in 2019. We'll see which one of those cities or locations or dates kind of sounds good to her. The times we've had Valentina Shevchenko on the show, she looks like she's ready to roll wherever. She did say Vegas would be fun, but I don't think you could tell Valentina anywhere in the world and she'd please. She's
and just any.
Stay close. It's the top of the hour break. We'll be back in about 60 seconds.
You ready?
Here they are, George and Goes.
Well, one guest I'm definitely not going to talk smack on is Jessica Eye. I've seen her get down all the way back to the Bellator days, now doing good work in the UFC on a 3-fight win streak. I ain't talking no smack to her, that's for sure. I'll get smacked up. Dana White this past week basically said that Jessica's next. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I think that was the last hurdle she and Valentina probably needed to clear. We know we're fighting. It's just a matter of when. But if I'm Jessica, I'm feeling pretty good. Like I'm starting to assemble my camp and get things ready. You gotta feel like maybe March or April this thing's going down, right?
Yeah, Jessica's always had that it factor.
Yeah.
So I think 2019 is gonna be really kind to her.
All right, we'll see. Let's talk to her. Let's bring her on. Jessica Evil Eye, how you doing?
What's up, guys? You had to play my entrance music.
You like that?
That's the song, that Migos song I walked out to at my last fight.
Yeah, a shout out to our producer Josh. He's always on top of that. Jessica, it must have felt good to hear Dana answer the question of who's next. He said your name. We know Valentina kind of had hinted that you were probably the most deserving, and obviously I know you want that shot. But to hear the UFC president say it, that has to put things in motion, right? As far as like getting things ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, there's already been some talk, behind us. hear him publicly say it was like, you know, like merit, you know, behind everybody else and even behind myself.
Right. And I imagine the second thing you thought to yourself was, when? Have you heard anything in terms of when this might go down?
Well, they already wanted it to go down in February, but I wasn't released. My teeth, like I keep having like a serious problem. Like the past probably like 4 or 5 fights, like I think it was almost ever since the Misha fight, right? Like ever since I got knocked down, like I bite down so hard on my jaw that I've been biting through my lip and like knocking my front teeth loose.
Whoa.
So this last fight, I bit through my, I know, right? It's crazy. So I bit through my lip again, like the inside of my lip, and knocked my teeth loose. So I wasn't released until the Wednesday before this last weekend. And I knew kind of, you know, what JoJo had been saying and what everybody's been saying. But I knew that if I just, you know, healed up, I'd be ready to go. And previously to that fight, I was already back, you know, that week. Like as soon as I was given the clear, like I started doing way more again.
How have you been able to rectify this? Is it something that working with a dentist, they can give you some sort of a mouthpiece that can, you know, relieve, you know, I guess.
So this last fight, like I got a brand new mouthpiece that was specially fitted for the fight a week and a half before. That was like a special fit, and it was brand new. It's so good. I showed it on my Instagram. Like I couldn't believe I bit completely through the plastic.
Wow.
Of a brand new mouthpiece. I know, right? It was crazy. So we're working towards some other things. I think we're going to make like a really fitted bottom one too. And, you know, my trainers are going to watch, like if there's some things I'm doing in my training that they're, you know, not picking up that can, you know, help. I think I'm just trying to hit them hard.
You're biting down hard when you throw punches, when you're about to receive them, or the whole time?
I don't know. I think I kind of remember in the Caitlin fight when it happened, because like I remember I felt it so many times that like in the middle of the fight I'm like, oh, that's like, you know, in a fight when it's like your blood or their blood or like your cut or their cut, like you kind of feel that, and like you always feel like a weird tingle, and like I felt it in my mouth and I was like, oh man. And it was actually after I had hit that overhand right on her and like rushed her in. I was like, oh man, I think I just bit through my lip.
Wow. Jessica I, our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio, working off a 3-fight win streak in the UFC. 3-0 since going back to flyweight, and looking like her and Valentina Shevchenko will mix it up sometime this spring. All right, so you said they approached you about February. That wasn't able to happen. And now that you think you got a handle on this biting the problem, we'll call it that, when do you think you'll be fighting? Let's start off with a season. The spring of 2019, does that sound about fair, or are you looking more like the summer?
Yeah, I mean, I would say like well, that's like not even a problem anymore. My lip healed up. It was just a matter of like my teeth getting formed up. But I originally was hoping for like March 2nd is when I originally like kind of countered with, hey, I'll fight, you know, March 2nd. That'd give me another week off from the time that it was offered, and which would get the week I'd be cleared from my dentist, and just I had a suspension even from the fight, so it was like I had to get that looked at.
So that ship kind of sailed, right?
I'm hoping April. I'm hoping April. You know what I mean? Like April. You know, like May. I mean, whatever. You know, June if it has to be that long. I mean, I had 3 fights. You know, in 11 months this past year, and I like being an active fighter as long as I'm injury free. Like my life is the gym and working out and just doing that all the time.
I wonder if, well, this is a fight night, and I think Valentina would defend on.
I wouldn't mind Miami. Miami would be sweet.
Yeah, you know, they just signed Paulo Costa versus Yoel Romero. So if they did your guys' fight and that one, that's a nice 1-2 punch, pardon the pun.
Right, those are just firecracking fights. Like, those would be sweet. The fans would love that.
Yeah. But otherwise, you're right. They do have a pay-per-view scheduled for April 13th. So maybe that might be it. I don't know of a location for that one. The week after, they're in St. Petersburg, Russia. Now, I was starting to think I wonder if they might play up that, but Valentina, I can imagine. I imagine the champions are usually going to stick to either the big ESPN card or a pay-per-view. So I'll probably rule that out myself. All right, let's see what the guys got.
I mean, you never know.
Mm-hmm. Let's see what the guys got. What do you have for Jessica I?
Jessica, when I look at your matchup with Valentina, I think of some things that have happened in your career, and you're very vocal in the sense of like helping get that card over in Cleveland, even like years ago on our show talking about a 125 class and helping that come along. So when I look at all the different storylines of your matchup, there's one that I had thought about, and that's Valentina represents Kyrgyzstan, where she was born. She lived in Peru. Do you ever, when you think about that matchup, do you ever think nationalistic pride as well being on the line, or is it just kind of about getting the win and just representing Jessica I? Like, am I reading too much into it?
I think you're reading too much into it because I didn't even think about it until then. But I guess it is kind of sweet when you have, like, the whole UFC thing where, like, they have American champs and, like, international champs, right? Like, obviously being from the U.S., like, Team America all the way. So it would be nice to have one, just in that way. But, I mean, and it's not on my everyday thought process.
I'm going to piggyback off your everyday thought process because I want to go back to what you actually did to help this weight class come around. You had been saying that for a really long time, and now that it's here, I think a lot of people had to eat crow. People that said that this type of division wouldn't they didn't need it, stuff like that. And I start thinking about the things that the 125ers and the men's side are going through, the 155ers that believe there's a 165 that is needed. When you hear those arguments, do you ever think about that, and do you ever feel like vocal on that end as well? Because you kind of had to go through something similar, and I just wondered what your thoughts were on those two weight classes.
I think that, it's unfortunate what's going on with them. I think that they're so light in that division. I think that sometimes it's almost like it takes the UFC, certain talent for them to get behind and see the talent. And maybe that's what will happen with the men's 125 division and through, like, just what Henry's done and some, like, realize that those guys, need to be there. And maybe eventually there will be a 65, division or something like that. Again, it's like, you have to you have two decisions as a fighter. Either you decide to hang on and see if it's going to happen, and hopefully you're successful outside of the weight class that you feel you're, most decorated in, or you're, going to get weeded out, and unfortunately you won't get that chance. I'm very fortunate, like, I really worked my butt off all through that, and I showed very consistent, and I think that if anything I said before wouldn't matter now if I wouldn't have done exactly what I was supposed to do. You know what I mean? Like, everybody wouldn't have believed that. So again, these guys just, have to keep believing in that and hope that it happens, and when it happens, capitalize on it.
Awesome. I want to talk a little bit about the win streak. Not yours, the one that our Red Devils, Manchester United, are on. Have you been keeping up?
No, I'm so, I've been so out of the loop, honestly, in that way. Like, on any of it, I know it's terrible, but I've been taking on some really cool, fun endeavors. But obviously, I'm a soccer girl at heart. Wish I had more time for it.
What kind of endeavors? Anything you can share? Anything fun or?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm gonna let them announce it, but like, I signed with like a full-on, big management agent, and I've decided to part with Strong Style and open my own gym with a friend. So like, that's been, it's been really cool. It's been really exciting, and like, I feel like I'm kind of stepping away from everything and just trying new things, and I found it to be really successful.
Well, congratulations. You get to be an entrepreneur, and right now at the height of your popularity in the UFC, I think it's good timing.
Why not capitalize on it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Everybody likes you when you're a winner. They kind of forget about you when you've been losing, so I kind of get to reap the benefits of that.
Jessica I is our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio. You can follow her on Twitter. It's Jessica Evil I. Let's send it over to the fight analyst, Dan Tom. Dan, what do you have for Jessica?
Hey, Jessica. It's been really fun to watch your 125 run, especially for those of us who've been following your career and aware of you for some time now, kind of been waiting for that. You proved everything you said in 2018. But I want to talk about post-fight UFC 231. UFC 231, of course, had a lot of great fights in the cage, but had a great post-fight interview moment where, and I'm going to quote you here for a second, Jessica, forgive me, but you said to Joe Rogan, Joe, you can look at my butt, but why don't you have me on your podcast? So I guess I want to know the important stuff. Do we have any news in the podcast front, Jessica? Do we have a date with Joe to get on that thing?
No, not yet. I totally think it would be funny. And, I think that Joe hasn't had a girl on like me, and I think that it'd be so fun. And it was so funny because I get tagged in that meme more than anything. In Joe's faces, everyone, tags him in those memes. But, people, it's crazy how much that comes up. I think that that's on a daily, that people tag me in something about him. So I figured I'd break the ice a little bit and see if I could make something happen. Well, not yet, though. They haven't called me. They like my stuff on IG, but I get no DMs.
Well, maybe you can hopefully you can get some traction in that department, especially if that'd be great advertisement for your new gym and project. I would imagine being able to get a spot on there. But tell me, Jessica, obviously we know your fighting style, but like I alluded to, people have been following you. Your character is just as enjoyable. So I don't doubt that you would make a splash on a show like that. But would there be anything you would want to talk about in particular?
I just think that, everybody forgets, what makes, fighters, the things that they go through. And I think that, I have a really cool story to tell. I think that there's a lot more to me than what people have seen, even through the losses. And I think that I can help inspire people, because if there isn't more of an inspiring story, sometimes I think about it myself and what I've went through, with friends, family, the fighting, and just for me to believe so much in myself and believe in one thing so much that eventually those things really started to happen. It's crazy, right? Just to believe that 125 was going to come, believe that I was going to be successful, to believe I was going to find good management, believe I was going to be my own gym owner one day and my own leader and my own success story. And it's crazy. It's starting to all happen. So I just want to help people who are, we live in such a socially, demanding world that people forget to pay attention to all the aspiring things that they can see, and they pay attention to, all the negative things. And I want to be that at least tiny little part or percent of the world that changes it or helps it.
Well, last one for me. I'm glad you mentioned story. And yes, you're right. Stories can be the most inspiring things, whether they're yours or others. So let me ask you, obviously, are you feeling any kind of uppage in the love from the UFC as far as getting your story out? Obviously, that's what they usually do for people, challenging for titles or whatnot. But are you feeling any of the love as you're making your way up the ladder?
No different than look, I don't get any more love than getting the chance that I lost 4 fights in a row and I got to stay, and I stayed 3 more fights and won it, and I'm getting ready to fight for a title fight on my 4th fight at 125. That's love. that's love through supporting me through some of the trials that I was having outside the cage, and as well as trying to fight in the wrong weight class at that time. So, and yeah, I think that just being here is enough. And again, I make my own path, and I get a date and a day for a fight, and that's when I get my platform, and that's when I get the most voice. So, again, when they give me that chance, I'll capitalize on it and make my voice very well heard.
I can tell you this. I'll never forget December 7th, 2012, when you beat Zoila Frosto. Zoila was a big name in the sport through Strikeforce, and you put it on her over at Bellator. We called Bellator and said, man, we'd like to talk to that young lady. And you came on the show, and you were oozing charisma, making us laugh. And, you told us about the tomboy days and fighting with your bro. And I was like, wow, I really thought these days would have come sooner, your popularity. But they're coming, Jessica. I think 2019 is going to be a big year. No I'll tell you this much. I mean, Valentina's a quality champion. You got a tough road ahead there, but I know you're confident in your skills, and you definitely earned your shot. So I can't wait to see that fight between you and Valentina Shevchenko.
It's gonna be fun, right? Like, 'cause they get to see two fighters, two high-level females fight. You know, it's gonna. These are two gritty chicks. I'm pumped to actually fight her. Like, it's cool to be excited about fighting another talented person.
Yeah.
It makes solving the problem and the puzzle a lot funner.
Exactly. So listen, we will keep an eye for the fight booking whenever it may happen. In the meantime, I hope you everything improves there with the teeth and the mouthpiece. That your gym opens with a rousing success, and hopefully some point mid-camp, we'd love to have you back on the show.
Awesome. You guys have my number. All you got to do is message me. I'll come on anytime.
Thanks, Jessica. Have a nice evening. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
All right, bye. Super cool chick, man. At Jessica Evil Eye is her handle. Give her some follows.
Cool nickname.
And to see her go through that emotion when she was able to break that streak, it was really, really cool. You go through these ups and downs as an athlete, and sometimes some people just they're not able to shake out of something like that. And look at the belief she had in herself. She kept plugging away, and now she's got herself a title shot. God bless her, man. That's awesome. All right. I think it's time we talk some Bellator, but first we should take this break. So let's pay some bills. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation Channel 93. When we come back, let's talk a little bit about these Grand Prix. One's coming to an end. We're in the middle of another one, and we'll also tie in our daily debate. So don't touch that dial. SiriusXM connected devices and speakers. I think the Jazz, even though the Nuggets have been the best team in the Western Conference prior to this run that Golden State's on, I think the Jazz are going to win, and I think it's going to be high scoring. So take the Jazz to the over.
That's
parlay
the one
that
sport I don't
to
like
the
to
Vegas Golden Knights minus a .5. It's a 3-teamer for you. And I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. So if you're okay with giving $25 or whatever, then have fun with it. Give me my props though if you hit it. Don't give me shit if you lose. All right, we're gonna do it. I'm just gonna do real rapid fire on some news that I think we just need to say, and then I want to talk about Bellator and their Grand Prix, one that culminates on Saturday night, Bellator 214, Ryan Bader and Fedor Emelianenko. The winner will be their heavyweight champion. And, of course, the welterweights, they're actually, what do you call it? They're still in the quarterfinal stage, but that thing will heat up in 2019, and at some point, we'll have a Bellator welterweight Grand Prix champion. And get this, the champions participating, and get this, 50 Cent threw in $1 million for the winner. So that will definitely be, that'll get us as pumped up as we were for, PFL when those fights were winding down, man. Like millions of million. All right, so John Jones VADA test, it revealed the same steroid metabolites pulsing pattern. These are VADA tests. Remember, he had to do VADA testing through the state of California. I think it's going to be a no harm, no foul, except just like Daniel Cormier said, he said, so what, are we just going to be okay with these picograms, for the rest of his career? We just have to accept them. He definitely ain't accepting them, and that's probably why he'll never fight him again. But he made a point. Like, I guess we just, what do? We just look at the story and go, oh, yeah, that's that thing, and completely move on. I don't know. It sucks. It sucks that we even have to talk about this, but that's the news. Also, Sabina Matzo, LFA champion at 125 pounds. She's in the UFC, guys. She will make her octagon debut versus Marina Moros at UFC on ESPN2. So congratulations to her. She earned it, man. She had great performances on Access TV and then became a champ and defended. So I love her slow and steady upward progress. Walt Harris, temporarily suspended by CSAC after a positive UFC 232 drug test. More on that in the next few days, but we usually don't hear about it that soon. Now, this is a CSAC test, not a USADA test. If it was a USADA test, none of us would know about it because, remember, USADA is now doing things differently. They're kind of going through the process first, then we hear about it. But
which kind of makes things a little confusing.
Yeah,
right?
Now that I think about it, maybe I do like the other one better, even though, unfortunately, in this sport, it's guilty until proven innocent. And speaking of that Grand Prix, Rory McDonald will be fighting John Fitch. Now, remember, this is a quarterfinal fight, but when John Fitch fights Rory McDonald, the title will be on the line. So, a little different. I don't know how to feel about it. Ryan Bader didn't have to do that, so he had to fight three-round fights, but this one's a little bit different. So every fight literally counts that way as a title defense for Rory McDonald. At the end of the Grand Prix, he might have 3 title defenses and that other belt and $1 million. So he's probably digging it, but, it's 5-round camp, 5-round fights. Who knows? We'll see. Yeah, Goes made a good point. Whether you call it leather helmet or just infancy stage or whatever, and we're talking about not just UFC, Bellator, just MMA in general. They're just got to try these things out. And in one instance, they're doing it where the champ is defending, and another one they aren't. And maybe that's to some people's likings, and maybe it's not to another one. But I suppose Bader couldn't have really been doing that because this was for the heavyweight Grand Prix, and he's the light heavyweight champion. Yeah. So I don't know if they just could have done a pass for him, weigh in, because him and King Mo fought. So they're 2 light heavyweights. Could that have been an actual title defense? Could they have called it an open weight Grand Prix? I don't know. But anyway, Sean Bunch re-signed with Bellator, so he's good to go. And the latest rankings are up for USA Today Sports. MMAjunkie, take a look at the move that Henry Cejudo made up the pound-for-pound list. If we get a chance, we'll actually go check that out. All right, guys, so I want to do the daily debate first, and then from there, let's talk a little bit about these Grand Prix taking place under the Bellator banner. One of them is ending on Saturday night at the Forum in Inglewood, California, when Ryan Bader and Fedor Emelianenko compete for the heavyweight Grand Prix final, in which the winner will be the Grand Prix champion. And, I mean, this division has needed that kind of attention. They had heavyweights. They signed some free agents. They just didn't have a champion. It was a damn shame, too. Anyway, it's Ryan Bader versus Fedor Emelianenko in the heavyweight Grand Prix, guys. This weekend at #Bellator214. Which outcome would be better for Bellator MMA? Bader as champ, Fedor as champion. Think it through, guys. Which one's better for the promotion as the representative, and think about it as well from the business standpoint. Go ahead, Goose.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is there kind of isn't a wrong answer to this, but I'm going to argue the side that I think Fedor Emelianenko would be just the better thing for the company, because now anytime you can have that guy at the forefront, it just brings back a lot of memories for people. I heard Misha Tate tonight talking about it on her show, just the mystique of that music playing, having to witness that for fans coming out. They love that stuff. I feel like a loss may actually, any loss can maybe usher Fedor out the door, and you don't want him out the door. If Bader loses that fight, then he kind of has the argument of, what do you want from me? I'm not even a real heavyweight, and he just goes back to being the light heavyweight king. So you make both sides a little happy there. I'm going to go with Fedor Emelianenko.
All right, how about you, Dan?
That's a good argument. I'm predicting that it will go the other way. I'm predicting that Fedor will lose. I hate to say that, but and Bader will become a double champion. I predicted Bader to win the tournament. But I would think that him being a double champion does more for him than the organization. I don't know if that translates. And that's not a knock on Bader. I'm just not sure if there are that many fighters in the Bellator stable who you put 2 gold titles in and they're doing an exponential amount of more business than they would on their own, or Bellator would on their own / with that fighter. So it's not a knock on Bader. I just don't know if it puts it over the hump more as Fedor, if it's more of the Bellator brand and kind of, finalizes and legitimizes what they've been doing. Hey, we're not just bringing back names. We're not just doing fun matchups. We're giving these guys legitimate opportunities to win titles, and they're stepping up and doing it. And if Fedor does it, that would be huge. So I guess I'll go with Fedor as well.
Make it 3. I feel the same way. Bader, if he wins, he still lost to John Jones at one point. So even though he's champ, he can't carry an aura of a baddest man on the planet. Bader's tremendously improved since that fight, by the way. And I think he's really, really a world-class light heavyweight. I mean, a really, really good one. And I'd love to see how he would do against some of those opponents in the past. But the one thing that really bothers me is it's one moment to hold up 2 belts, and then it just kind of goes away. No one defends him, except for David Branch. They just don't get around to it. It's just a moment it's a cheap moment that we all capitalize. And it's good for Bader, but I don't think it'd be good for Bellator. I think Bellator is better off with Fedor. Hey, look what he still has as far as gas left in the tank. And luckily for Fedor, Fabricio Verdum isn't still a champion, because they can still say, hey, no, we got the baddest man on the planet. I mean, Cormier might have something else to say, but they've never fought. And so it's a little bit of a twist there, because Fedor has kind of carried that aura for so many years. A lot of people still say he's the greatest of all time.
I'd even argue that that scoreboard actually still goes in Fedor's way. Yeah, he did lose to Fabricio Verdum, but he's beat every other former UFC champion really he's faced, right? Frank Mir, Andrei Arlovsky, Tim Sylvia, heck, Jeff Munson, if we want to get technical, or title challengers, guys who have challenged for titles, right? Mark Coleman. Yeah, I mean, you can really just kind of pick and shoot through that resume. It's really strong there. So, if we're if Bellator's in that new era, let's be honest, we've seen Scott Coker poke with some tweets. I mean, to have a guy like Fedor as your champion is a real a nice piece up there.
Good business, too.
Good business.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it would be the end of the world to have Ryan Bader win that fight. But when you think about it, do you really want a light heavyweight to buzzsaw his way through the heavyweight Grand Prix?
No, only if Bader was more of a gangster. He's an all-American, good-looking guy, family guy, but he's not like a gangster that can, I guess, thump his chest and make that point. Like, Bader, you can ask him, and he'll say, yeah, I'm pretty damn good, aren't I, But he's never going to go around saying, I'm the best, I'm the man. And if you're a champ, you got to be doing that. That's just kind of not his style.
I wonder if there's any pressure on Scott Coker for this. Obviously, there's obvious pressure, but he's been a little bit more chirpy, a little bit more vocal, little posts that he makes towards the UFC. And I wonder if things don't really go Bellator's way that night, if he feels that pressure of...
Well, he can't lose, though. He can't lose. If
it's a terrible fight, maybe he could lose.
True, yeah. But as far as, like, the result, either guy, he'll either have a champ or Fedor. But, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. All right, here's how the results came. It was pretty split, even though we were unanimous. 56 did say Fedor is champion, so they were in agreement with us. But 44% said Bader as champ. You know what? 55-45. I misspoke.
Okay.
Over 1,000 votes came in thanks to Junkie Nation, the readers of the site, and the listeners of the show for participating. All right, so tell me about these Grand Prix. Have you enjoyed them? Did they live up to the hype? Start with the heavyweight.
I love them. I love Grand Prix. I think it's fun. You have to kind of distinguish yourself from the other organizations, and we already see what PFL has going on. That's completely different. Bellator is somewhat similar to what the UFC does, but they have their own wrinkles, right? They have their own kickboxing. They do these Grand Prix. I like it, man. I think it's been fun.
How about you, Dan?
I like the Grand Prix as well. I kind of like bringing it back. I feel like they've been pretty successful. And I like that we're just seeing different versions of it in the organizations, giving it that old school MMA feel. And key word there, different organizations, right? I mean, it was really kind of feeling like a Monopoly game of sorts for some years there, a choke point, if you will, right? With the collective absorbments and movement. And sure, Japan always has something going here or there, but I'm really liking the overall scene. And I think the tournaments, Grand Prix, brackets, just it gives a great look that we can all get on board with.
Yeah. One of the most exciting things about the Bellator or any Grand Prix has been when they make the announcement and then you see maybe the pairings and then they bring all the athletes to that first show. But then, of course, it kind of, these guys can't fight. It's not like football where you can fight the following week or anything like that. So it just kind of slows down. That's the one part I always like, I want to get through it and crown the champion or belt the champion. But the announcement, when they all come out, I love it. And sure enough, now we're at the finals itself, so I'll be pumped up on Saturday night. But, it takes its time.
Yeah.
One thing I did like about Bellator's, they didn't call them Grand Prix. They just called them tournaments. Do you remember when they would do it and a month later they were back? Quarterfinal, semifinal, final. You know what I mean? That one was kind of easier to keep up with. But these things kind of take a year. And that's the part where I'm like, come on, let's get to the finish line.
I hear you. That's fair.
A little bit,
I don't mind it.
I feel like Rory versus, or let me pull up the Douglas Lima Korshkov fight and Neiman Gracie Ed Ruth. The first one, Douglas Lima Korshkov. It just feels like it was 6 months ago, and we're not even done with the quarterfinals.
Okay.
Like I'd like to see 2-2 within like a month of each other. I mean, like Neiman Gracie, Douglas Lima, they're sitting there waiting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Daly and Page is going to happen, and then McDonald and Fitch. McDonald and Fitch isn't happening till April? Come on. So I think that needs to be shored up a little bit. But they grabbed great names. And how about the Neiman Gracie story? Nobody gave him a chance, and he's right there. $1 million from 50 Cent. Pretty cool. So we're trying stuff. It's working. We'll see. But I think they could tighten up the schedule a little bit better.
Josh, you got a point to bring up here on this whole thing. What do you think?
Yeah, so Fedor today at the open matchup, open workouts told reporters, including MMAjunkie, I'm reading this on MMAjunkie.com.
Hey.
He said that he's
Where
focused.
else would he be?
Yeah, exactly, right? So I'll just read the exact quote. I want to paraphrase. To tell the truth, at the age of my age right now, okay, it's more and more that I'm thinking about retiring. It's not because I don't want to fight. It's because of the age that speaks and the injuries and all the wars I had. For a guy to be talking this much about retirement ahead of a fight, do you think that plays into his favor or not? I mean, because I guess you could look at it like he obviously would want to end his career on a win, but if he's already also thinking about retiring before the fight even happens, could it be a negative? I guess, do you see it playing a role, him thinking about ending his career ahead of this fight?
I'd say yes, but also with Fedor in particular, and you guys tell me what you think of this. He's entrusted his career into God's hands for quite some time now. And however you want to read into that, I think the common thread there is that we can't, even as biggest supporters, haven't known what kind of Fedor we're going to be getting in the last 5 or 6 years when I say that. So that's I guess I'm already cushioned for it, so it really doesn't make much of a difference for me. Then again, I'm also picking against him, so what does that say?
I think Bellator actually brought the best out of Fedor. I think the problem with Fedor for a while was he was taking one-offs here and there. And back in the Pride days, he would do a camp, fight, and then he would usually have another fight waiting in the wings. A big fighter just waiting for him, whether it was Krokop, Nogueira, whoever it was.
Yeah.
And he couldn't really fall out of fight shape, fall out of that fight life. I think Bellator, what they did was give him consistency where he couldn't go off and just do whatever he wanted. He kind of had to stay in fight shape, and I think that was the best thing for him. We've heard Dana White talk a lot about fighters saying whenever they bring up retirement, it's never a good thing. But look at Dennis Bermudez. I mean, he had that in his head, and he had one of the best performances we've ever seen of him. So I think it just really comes down to the individual.
I feel like we're playing with house money. Fedor once retired, or it seems like it's happened a few times.
Yes.
Went away and then came back, and everything else has just been extra. So if he were to fight for his last time on Saturday night, I won't be like, oh, come on, give us another one.
Right.
He already did that.
Yeah.
And if he chooses to continue to fight, just let me know. I'll have the remote ready and I'll be watching. So go out there and do your thing, Fedor. You and Bader, man, it's going to be a fun one. I'm definitely looking forward to it. How about welterweights? We're in the middle of it, welterweights. We're in the middle of it. In this one, the champ defends his belt as we progress, and they got $1 million rallied up by 50 Cent. So, high stakes here. The heavyweights no one's getting $1 million there.
If anything, if this tournament is the reason that they were able to bring Michael Page and Paul Daly together, I already feel like a winner. Because I've been wanting to see that fight for the longest time, and if this is what did it, then they've already won.
Yeah, that's a great matchup. I can't wait for it.
My favorite part of this welterweight Grand Prix is the post-win 50 Cent champagne showers, which I always feel really awkward because it's just him. I at least surround himself with some girls instead of just having 50 Cent go back there solo in the locker room. And there's a fighter like a Douglas Lee was a very stoic individual. He's trying to come down from a fight. He's getting sprayed with champagne.
I don't like in professional sports when they wear goggles. Have you ever seen that? I get it. If champagne gets in your eyes, you had bugs. But come on, man. Goggles. The Bad News Bears, did they throw on goggles when they were pouring beer on their heads? And those were kids, dude. Just man
probably
up.
apple juice.
I know, but still, you can't have goggles on.
Okay, but here's
it's the last game.
I know, but here's the reason. There'll be times when the announcer's like, hey, guess what? You're the MVP. Speak on that. And they've sprayed you, and you're like this.
Hey, I'm okay with it.
Hey, listen.
The mic's right here, and you're like, oh, man, it's like they've been pepper sprayed, know?
These are eyelids, though. They close, and that's what protects them.
Listen, if
I get it, but they just – I think they wanted to do away with it, whereas with the goggles, they can keep their composure and be able to talk.
All right, well, so what's going to happen now? The Super Bowl, if Belichick wins again, would you be okay with him wearing a little parka or something, or a little plastic over him when he gets the Gatorade dunked?
Yeah.
Come on, there's just certain things, man. You just man up, celebrate like a man.
Okay.
Listen, if Bellator got R. Kelly instead of 50 Cent, you'd be wearing much more goggles for that post spray celebration.
Bubble, bro.
All right, how are we looking on the break front? Do we still have one more? All right, we should take that. Let's do that. Listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation Channel 93. Stay close. We'll be right back.
Injuries forced them to retire.
Right, Kevin. No, he's gone. Yep. He's gone, and there's nothing we can do about it. All right, next up, Joe from Houston. What's up, Joe?
Good morning, fellas.
Good morning.
How you doing? Good morning.
Hey, man. Listen here, man. I watched that fight about 100 times, and TJ got mauled by Henry Cejudo. I mean, he just got mauled, embarrassed. That's one of those fights where you got two kids in the playground, and one of them just big brothers the other, man. So that's all I got to say about that. I mean, and according to you guys, you know, we got to explain to the ref that these are bigger stakes, and this is the first card on ESPN, and let's let it go a little longer. I mean, man, that's out the window, man, when we're talking about reffing a fight. So that's the furthest thing from a ref's mind right there. So I just think it was a great call. And, you know, for you guys to say all that stuff about the stakes and all, I don't get that, man.
What's there not to get? It's a big fight. The guy was rushing in.
For the big fights, we got to let it go.
I don't think he was finished. He just wasn't in a finished state.
Yeah.
He got up really right away, and he was arguing and pleading his case right away. He wasn't really on wobbled legs. I respect the referee has a difficult decision to make, and that's happening at way faster, you know, times than the replay shows. They slow it down. That's why they call it slow motion replay or whatever. But I just felt like he still had a little bit more fight in him, and whether it was a title fight or not, I think subconsciously referees tend to have a longer leash, I guess, when it comes to that. You know what I mean? You just saw the Saints and the Rams. They didn't make that call. You know, I guess they just wanted to let the players decide it rather than them interject themselves. But I just don't think TJ was a finished fighter. So that's why I wanted to see more of it.
I don't think it was the worst call in the world, and I'm not even saying that TJ had a ton of fight left in him or anything like that.
And I'm not even calling for the referee's head.
Of the doubt.
Yeah,
it would have been nice.
I disagreed with it, right?
Yeah, I thought he got mauled and got dropped twice. Was taking punches, unblocked punches through the face, and it was a good stoppage. But one question, I'll get out here, let you in the show. Carlos Silva, I believe his name, PFL. What do you guys think of him moving on? Thanks, guys.
All right, see you, Joe. So we talked about this a little while ago, and you know, tennis. He actually played professional tennis. Mm-hmm. I don't know that he was like, you know, in a Wimbledon finals or anything like that, but he did play, and that's just his first love. So for him to be able to get back and now be the head of an organization that involves tennis, I think he's just coming home, in air quotes, is what it boils down to. As far as his PFL run, look, I think he left it in a better state than when he got there. But I don't mean that as a disrespect for that team, you know, that started things off. Mm-hmm. But I've just heard a lot of good things from everyone behind the scenes. That's just the type of stuff that I guess I really don't see. You know, that's probably a better question for Ray Sefo. But it looked like people were being very kind to him on social media, you know, thanking him for his time.
He was very instrumental in taking that organization to the next level. How about that?
Yeah.
You want to go? I think this is Ben from New Zealand.
All right. What's up, Ben? How you been?
Yeah, I've been good as gold, GG. This might seem like a weird one or a weird angle, but I loved watching Cowboy shut Alex Hernandez up after all of that trash talk. But I don't think Cowboy actually looked that good in the fight. He looked all of his 35 years. I'm not just talking about his 90s goatee and thinning hair. He looked sluggish and sloppy, and he looked like he was almost like he was rocked the whole time. Didn't look like the usual Cowboy. When Cowboy's on top, he usually has like a stalking, he's never been the fastest, but he sort of reminds you of a sort of stalking animal. And this time he looked dodgy the whole time.
Well, he got hurt. No, I know what you mean. He got hurt, but here's where the difference was. Cowboy was able to make adjustments. Just that right knee that he was throwing he caught Hernandez a couple times with that, and so Hernandez just wasn't able to also make adjustments to what Cowboy was doing. So I think his experience pulled through, but yeah, he was rocked. Hernandez had some moments early on. It looked like Hernandez might take it to him, but Cowboy pulled through. Now that also, he's older with more wear and tear, so you're going to see him slow down in fights, and he was back at lightweight, and we don't know how close he rehydrated to feel like he was 100%. Yes, he won the fight, but, you know, it was a process. It definitely wasn't easy, but I understand what you're saying. There have been other Cowboy fights where he just looked better.
Yeah, you ended up going where I was sort of heading with it. I don't know if I want to see him at lightweight again. I mean, obviously he can do what he wants to do, but I preferred seeing him at welterweight. It just seemed, for the age he is now, it just seems like a better deal for him.
I appreciate that observation, Ben, because you know, I was looking at the replay, and first of all, I feel dumb because not only was I on the wrong side of the pick, but I said that knee could be a problem. That check knee, I see that being his biggest issue on the feet. But then I figured, maybe Hernandez will just smash him up against the cage and make it a grindy wrestling bout. Obviously, that didn't happen. And Cowboy looked great. He made adjustments like George said. But when I was looking back at the replay, when he's throwing his punches, he just looks so skinny. You can see the bottom of his rib cage, and it looked more unhealthy than when he used to fight at lightweight, and a bit different, kind of touching on the notes Ben's saying here. And, yeah, I mean, he didn't get taxed by Hernandez, obviously. Set himself up nicely. I hope he cashes out whatever he does, Conor or title. But I wouldn't hate it either, Ben, if he went back up to 170.
So, Dan, let me actually use something that you brought up the other day. You made an excellent point that Woodley, Askren, Usman, and there was a fourth. Oh, Covington.
Yeah.
All wrestlers.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the strikers are like, woo, it's a battle to get through those guys. It's a battle to fight Woodley. Do I want any part of that? It could be that Cowboy who's coming off that Perry win just thought, man, maybe this isn't the best recipe, and I'm not getting any younger. So if I am going to go down to 155, maybe now's the time while the wrestlers sort things out at 70, and then let a Darren Till or a Stephen Thompson maybe be in the picture, and you'll find me, back at 70. That's all I could think of. Or maybe he knows more than we do, and that fight with Conor is more lukewarm than we thought, and all he needed was a win to do the call out, and then bam.
Good point.
So these are things that I definitely don't know for certain, but you made me think there when you presented those strong four fighters at 170. Even more reason for Cowboy to do a quick exit just for now.
No, great point. And obviously there is a king wrestler at lightweight who you could argue may be harder to submit, and maybe Cowboy has a better chance of submitting than a Woodley when he's tired, or even a Covington. Yeah, that's a point that goes both ways. So great point there. Yeah, that point goes both ways.
Either guy is a beast, man. We got to get on out of here though. Good stuff there from Ben from New Zealand. It's always great to hear from him. Thank you to all of our guests, including Cory Sandhagen and Jessica I. Tomorrow, the plan is to have Henry Cejudo and Ali Abdelaziz here in studio. So it should be a fun show. And keep it locked on MMA Junkie for the next 22 hours. Until then, our writers and editors and videographers, and we got you covered, bringing you closer to the sport of mixed martial arts. Great job by Jumbo Josh, as always.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll be exiting here. So for Goes and Dan, I'm George. Have a nice day. Go out there and be a champion.